What do you recommend for patients who have candida, brain fog, or high sensitivity to sugar? And what results have you seen from people who follow this advice?
Okay, well, the first advice is if you've been diagnosed with candida, there's a 99.9% chance you don't have it. It's one of the favorite false diagnoses of alternative practitioners. See, I'm just as hard on my own kind as I am on the traditional medical profession. So most of the time, people don't have it. It's a favorite misdiagnosis. And while people are chasing around after trying to eat less fruit and some of the other crazy things that they have people do, they're missing what's really going on, which is the person's eating a terrible diet, they're dehydrated, they're carrying extra weight, all kinds of unaddressed health issues. In terms of brain fog, there is no such thing. There is a form of brain fog. It results from chemotherapy. It's a common side effect of chemotherapy. It doesn't always pass, and it's because it's so severe. It should be disclosed to patients before they, as something important to consider before they sign up for chemotherapy, because it goes into that risk-benefit ratio that we've been talking about. So brain fog is another, it kind of goes along with the crowd that are diagnosing. I'll tell you what the diagnoses are: candida, brain fog, adrenal fatigue. There's no such thing as adrenal fatigue. It does not exist. It's a made-up condition. I've written papers on this stuff, happy to provide if you want to read them. Heavy metal toxicity, soy allergy, undiagnosable Lyme disease or persistent Lyme, and subclinical hypothyroidism that cannot be identified with a blood test. Those are like the 7 hallmark diagnoses. Now, do some people have these things? Yes. But 99% of the people who are being told that they have them don't, and some of them don't even exist, right? So we don't treat, one of the first things we do is we tell people we don't treat fake diseases in the office. We just think it's a good policy to have. In terms of sensitivity to sugar, I think everybody is to a certain extent. I don't know that that's a condition in and of itself. And the more you don't eat it, the more apparent it becomes. And in ways that some people don't even think about. So I don't eat, I don't try to be perfect. I think it's a trait nobody can achieve anyway, but so I don't eat a lot of really processed stuff. So sweets for me is smoothies and fruit and that sort of thing. But when I do have something, it doesn't take very much, to make you a little agitated or whatever. And you don't, it tastes good, but you don't need a lot of it. So I don't know that sugar sensitivity is actually an issue. I think that might be another one of those things that everybody experiences it. And if you're eating enough of it that you're having a reaction, you're probably just eating too much. You need to eat the right things every day.
What are the top causes of death, and are these things we have control over?
Well, I'm going to surprise you with this answer. The number 1 is heart disease, number 2 is cancer, number 3 is medical treatment. And at number 3, that only includes death from mistakes and things that happen in institutions. It does not count the people who die outside of a facility, who die of medical treatment that was incorrect or too much or whatever else might be going on. So yeah, you can do something about all of those. Almost all heart disease, cancer can be prevented. Not all, but most. Some people really do have a bad genetic hand, and that's unfortunate, but most of it's preventable. You can't prevent all medical error, and it can happen even with well-meaning people. But what you want to do to avoid that is stay out of the medical mill. See, it used to be, and I'll tell you how people get into the medical mill. It used to be that medicine was set up to treat people who had problems. You went to a doctor and said, I have a symptom. My head has been hurting for 6 weeks. It's not going away, and I'm beginning to think something is wrong. All right, so diagnosing and doing whatever testing you have to do to find out what that is and treat it is warranted. But we don't do that now. We take healthy people, and the idea is we're going to poke and prod till we find something wrong. And a lot of times the things that they find that are wrong aren't even disease. They're risk factors for disease, but we're treating the risk factors as if they're disease. And now you've got a healthy person who's been sucked into this system and made a sick patient, who spends a lifetime of tests and treatments. The treatments and the drugs bring on more side effects and more treatments, and that's the medical mill. So it teaches people to be so hypersensitive to their symptoms And I don't mean to be dismissive, but I actually have people saying things like, I've been noticing I get a lot of hangnails lately. Do you think that's a skin cancer? I should be worried about that. My elbow hurts. I hope I don't have bone cancer. This is silliness that has been indoctrinated into people, that you pay attention to everything that happens to you every day. I send emails to people every day. People write and say, I have a headache. I write back and say, well, how long have you had it? 14 minutes before I emailed you. I mean, do you get headaches all the time? No. Okay, probably it'll go away. If you get a cold, it goes away in about 7 to 10 days. You get the flu, it goes away. Most things the body takes care of. So I think the key, because it's very important, it's the most controllable thing of how people cause of death is medical interaction, is to limit your interaction with the healthcare profession to only when you need to be there. I teach by analogy, and I'll say this because this is really helps people understand. I live in a house that's 30 years old. I bought it 30 years ago. I still live there. I've maintained it. It's a big investment. I've taken care of it. So just think about if I put something on Facebook and said, I want every contractor in Franklin County to come to my house tomorrow morning at 9, and we're going to walk through this house, 3,000 square feet of house, big wooded lot, full basement, and we're going to look for stuff that's wrong. And I'll tell you what, if you see something that you think is going to break or need maintenance in the future, you fix it, my insurance company will pay you. I'd be under construction until I was 105. That's a lot different than when you call the plumber and say, my sink is leaking. I need a new garbage disposal. The furnace filter needs to be changed, or the furnace needs to be replaced because it won't turn on. That's a whole different thing. So treat your body the way you would maintain your house.
Because we live in this age where we're all about preventative health care, and it sounds like, if I'm hearing you right, we're almost just taking that way too far. And the best preventative health care is to eat a plant-based diet and do the things that we're saying.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, I have never read a story of a centenarian, and I read a lot of them because I just think it's fascinating because I want to be one. I've never read a story, where the person has said, you know why I lived to be 100? Because I regularly saw my doctors. Every time they said have a test, I did it. Every time they told me to do something, I followed through. In fact, you almost always see the opposite. I ate well, I'm taking care of myself, I've had a great life, great kids, love my community, great friends, enjoy the things I do, haven't been sick, that sort of thing. You haven't been sick because you haven't been made sick. You can make anybody sick if you poke and prod long enough. I'm sure at 62, if you examine this body enough, you'll find something that we could talk about. But do I benefit from knowing about it? Usually not.
What should we do to prevent cavities?
Well, to prevent cavities, your diet has a lot to do with it, of course. Your oral hygiene has a lot to do with it, brushing your teeth, flossing. Some people are more prone to them than others, and they can do everything right and still have dental problems, but I think it's mostly a diet-related thing. One other thing I'll mention, acid reflux is one of the major causes of dental cavities. And damage to the tooth enamel is a common side effect. So getting rid of reflux, which is diet-related most of the time, diet and weight related.